Wait a second, where the heck are we? Oh yeah, we're back here at Amalie Arena. Welcome to another edition of Bolts Breakdown. Bryan Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. Recher 95.3 WDAE. Finally back home here at Amalie Arena. I'm back stateside. Burnsy's back from all your travels as well, and St. Pete. She's a world traveler, this guy over here. But yeah,
Pinellas County traveler.
Pinellas County traveler, Tampa Bay's own. Even though we're not from here, but we live here now for sure. Bryan Burns, Recher here with you. Before we get into tonight's game, you hear some of the pucks and sticks out there. The Buffalo Sabres are just finishing up their morning skate. Let's look back, Burnsy, at the last game for the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Philadelphia Flyers. And, you know, I think a lot of people going into that game, Burnsy, looking at how the first two games went this year, thought it would be a high-scoring affair and thought that it would be, you know, if anything, if the Lightning got ahead, that the Flyers would come back. But it's a pretty dominant game overall, in my opinion, for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, they just kind of overwhelmed them at the beginning of that game, scored 3 goals in that first period, and then just kind of coasted the rest of the way to victory. And it seemed like each time Philly got like a little bit of a foot in the door, they get a goal, the Lightning are right there to kind of slam it shut and answer, and sign of a really good team. You know, you come out, you overwhelm an opponent early, you coast the way through. Anytime they answer, or they try to get into it, you got to answer for it. And just really been impressed with what this team's been able to do of late. Not just like dominating teams, which they have been for the last 5-6 games, but they're dominating good teams. They're dominating teams that are fighting
streaks,
for playoff positioning, teams that have like been on really hot runs going into the game against the Lightning. It doesn't really seem to matter who the Lightning are playing right now. They've just been dominating guys, and you just want to see that continue. You don't think it can last another 21 games here through the regular season, but for me, it's just continuing to work on those small details of the game, fine-tuning their game, getting ready for the playoffs. And I really like what I've seen from this team so far. It's just how they've remained engaged and they've remained committed to those details over these last few games.
As always, we want to hear from you on Bolts Breakdown. Where are you watching from? Shout out to we're going to call you guys the usual suspects. Fabio and Yoko and Lisa and John Zaleski from Olean, New York. Let us know where you're watching Bolts Breakdown from. Put it there at the bottom of the screen. Also share this on your Facebook. Let's get the word out. Make sure we're spreading this. Shout out to Jordana Warren. Hello from Hollywood. Tampa Bay Lightning having quite the streak. That's the truth. All right, so after morning skate today, obviously the biggest stories that a lot of people are asking these questions, like Glenn Johnson, any word on Heddy, and then also Braden Point. So from what we saw with Braden Point and heard from John Cooper of Braden Point, he said it was a mistake. He missed the team meeting. Looks like they're going to put it behind him. He'll be back in the lineup tonight. Victor Hedman, we saw him come out on the ice. He was probably the 5th or 6th skater out there, Burns. He looked like he was skating well. He was taking his typical line rushes. He was on the first power play unit. You and I both saw him. He looked pretty good to us. I think the only way he doesn't play tonight is if he didn't react too well to the skate today, and his treatment afterwards says that he probably needs another night. I was anticipating that Cooper said he would be good to go, but we heard from Cooper after morning skate that it would be a game time decision. But I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I think if I have to lean towards yes or no, I think I'm leaning towards yes that Hedman will be back in the lineup, especially because the roster move of Matthew Joseph coming back up and Jan Rutta going back down.
Yeah, I think it's basically just to see, how Heddy reacts from the morning skate. They had a full morning skate today because they didn't practice yesterday, so it was pretty much kind of like a practice day for them at morning skate, and they'll see how Heddy reacts to that full morning skate, make sure he's okay. I mean, all signs point to him being in. He was back up in that first defensive pairing with Anton Strawman. Looks like Girardi might be the guy out, yeah. The D-man out in the rotation because he was kind of mixing in with Danik Martel. It's just kind of I don't know, what would you call that? A defensive pairing, I guess.
Yeah, he was doing some kind of like fourth
reconfigure, like man of misfits defensive pairing kind of thing with
Burnsy and I were about to go out there.
Yeah, so it looks like Heddy's coming back. All signs point to that, but they'll wait and see how he reacts to morning skate, make sure everything's good to go, and then I would expect that he'll be in the lineup tonight. Make
sure you follow us on Twitter, BBurnsNHL. Recher here with you. As soon as we find out if Heddy's going to be out there, we will definitely for sure let you know. We got a lot of... Go ahead, sorry.
Real quick, just also the thing with Pointer, a lot of people are maybe like, is it concerning that something like that happened and he's been suspended or he was forced to miss a game for missing a team meeting? I remember something like this happened, I think it was 2 years ago. I think that was when Valtteri Filppula was still here. But Valtteri Filppula, I think something similar happened. He missed a meeting or he overslept or did something where he missed something, kind of like a violation of team rules kind of thing. He had to sit out one game. came right back in, and then that was the end of it.
And Val Filppula was another guy very similar to Braden Point, who's a guy that keeps his head down, very humble,
very
hardworking guy.
professional.
So I really wouldn't look too deep into this as Pointer being a malcontent or something that's going to be a recurring issue. Don't worry about that.
Kind
He
of
seemed
a
very
one-time thing,
he seemed very contrite today. He was just like, I'm really sorry, I made a mistake, I want to move on. I doubt that you see anything like this from Braden Point again.
Yeah, honestly, I think this will be the end of it today. Once
just
he
like
gets
it was,
back in.
just like it
you
was
won't
with
remember
Filppula.
it again.
Yeah,
just like with Filppula, you didn't hear about it again.
Exactly.
After that,
Marcus Persson, do you see any blockbuster trade coming Tampa's way, or any trade for that matter? That seems to be the $1 million question. Still don't know yet. I mean, we kind of talked about this the last couple of shows with the trade deadline coming up on Monday. Maybe a move for a depth defenseman or a guy, but we just don't see with the team as well as they're playing right now. I mean, why shake it up? I mean, I know some people were talking about Wayne Simmons, but watching him play the other night, I mean, would he fit with this Lightning roster?
Yeah.
I don't know. The lack of toughness that some people talked about last year's team. I think, another full year of Anthony Cirelli and Matthew Joseph being up here and Cedric Paquette and even Ryan Callahan, he's going to be a factor. And then Eric Chernak on the blue line adding a little bit more punch there. I think those guys, just that combination right there, is going to make up for that lack of punch, literally and physically, that they had, figuratively, that they had last year. So I really don't, I thought that maybe Wayne Simmons would be a good fit, but how good this team is playing right now, Burnsy, I don't think I would change a thing.
Yeah, even the depth defenseman, I've heard that, and it's like, you already have 7 defensemen. You're already sitting one guy out who deserves to play because you have so much depth defensively. I'm not really sure that you need to give up something to go get a depth defenseman. If there's someone out there that you like, I know the Lightning do a lot with analytics, and if there's a guy out there that analytically fits in their system and you don't have to give up a lot to get him, maybe you go after that guy, but you got 7 right now. You can even bring up Ruda, which we've seen them do kind of in not an emergency situation, but a situation where you just need someone there in case something happens to one of those other guys. So he could possibly be an 8th D for you, but I just don't think, that you're probably going to have to give up more than it's really worth to go out and get a depth defenseman. And I'm like you. I thought Simmons would be a good fit for this team. Wasn't really impressed with his game in that game against the Flyers the other night. A lot of what he does, other than the physicality, the Lightning already have a pretty good supply. He's good on the power play, but the Lightning they have one of the top historic power plays in the NHL right now.
Why ruin it?
30.1%, which would be like the 4th best power play in NHL history. So you really don't need to do any more tinkering on the power play as far as that's concerned. I mean, you could say, maybe throw him into the second power play unit, but we've seen of late, they're really, the first power play unit's getting the bulk of the time. The second power play unit, you're still seeing Kucherov out there. He's kind of getting into that Alex Ovechkin zone where you just leave him out there for the whole 2 minutes. And I think you're going to see that more and more as the playoffs go on. I think you might even see, not every time, but I think you might see that entire first power play unit get the entire 2 minutes if they haven't scored a goal and you want to keep them out there because they've got things buzzing. And so I don't know that you necessarily even need a guy for the second power play unit. I'm like you. I don't really think there's any reason to go out and get anyone when the team is playing so good right now.
Without a doubt. Make sure you share this on your Facebook. We're trying to spread the word, get it out to as many Lightning fans as possible. We know there's a lot of Lightning fan groups out there as well. So if you could share this on your fan groups, we're just trying to spread the word. We want to talk Lightning hockey with you, especially when we're here at Amalie Arena. Ricky in Fort Lauderdale. Hey to Mark Dalglish in Spain.
Paul Dalglish was the first head coach of it was FC Tampa Bay at the time when the Rowdies came in. When they came back, Paul Dalglish.
Nice. Shout out to Nashara from Brandon. Thank you so much. Let's see. Lisa Hartley, always bringing thunder with good questions. Vasi is starting tonight. He was the first guy off the ice, so look to see him there. Gun-Britt Nagy from Stockholm, Sweden. Gotta love it there. Joe D'Angelo from Palm Harbor. Man, I tell you what, man. It is not early. Hi, fellas from Braden, Tucky. I like that. A lot of people watching today, man. We really do appreciate you guys. How are the third jerseys being received by the guys? Seems like they like them, right?
Yeah, they like them.
I haven't heard anything in particular, but
I know they like a lot of the gear. I know when some of the hats came out.
They were fans. They were wearing those before the jerseys.
Yeah, Vazzy took one of the hats. One of the other guys took one of the hats too. So they were kind of in hot demand when those new items were coming out. So I think all in all, it's been pretty well received.
Brian Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at BBurnsNHL. Recher 95.3 WDAE. Follow me at Recher. Let's look forward to tonight's game, an Atlantic Division battle with the Buffalo Sabres. And pretty crazy, Burnsy, that They've won, since that long winning streak that they had early in the season, they've only won 11 games since then. That's incredible, man.
Yeah, they break in their game notes. They break their games down into 10 game segments and say what their record is for each one of those, and they're pretty much all the same, like 5-4-0, 6-4-0, or 5-4-1, 6-4-0. And even with that 11-game win streak, they don't have like a segment where they're like 10-0-0, or it was still like middle of the road all the way through. And it just kind of goes to show you that outside of that long win streak that they went on, this is kind of a middle of the road team. And
take that part out of it,
they're not even in the playoff conversation. And I think a lot of it has to do with their goaltending. During that streak, they were really getting good goaltending from Carter Hutton. And that just hasn't held up.
He was in the Vezina conversation. We thought he'd be an all-star at that point. I remember talking about that. Real quick, to those asking, Ryan Callahan and Danik Martel, and as well as Dan Girardi, look to be the scratches for tonight's game.
Yeah, based off the line rushes and what we saw.
And Eric Froon's asking about Kucherov, 100 points. He's got 99. But if I was a betting man, I think he would get 100. And Bernsey also brought it up to Steven Stamkos. So he didn't want to talk about it. But 2 goals away from tying Vinny Lecavalier for the team lead all time. So that's going to be pretty cool. What's the 3 keys to victory for the Bolts tonight against the Sabres?
Yeah, number one for me is just kind of replicate the recent starts that we've seen from this Lightning team. I think over the last 3, 4, 5 games or so, they've really just kind of overwhelmed teams right from the beginning of the game, have been able to put up, quick strike offense goals in quick succession. And I just want to continue to see that. There was a time period earlier in this season when it seemed like the Lightning were getting off to poor starts and they'd have to come back. And that was kind of a theme for a little bit. Why aren't you starting games on time? That hasn't been the case of late. And just want to continue to see them come out and just dominate from the opening puck drop, get a couple goals, and then you can just kind of get into your defensive shell, really work on those details of the defensive game and see that victory all the way through.
Especially because a team like Buffalo, the only period where they outscore their opponents is the first period. So, winning that first period is going to be big for the Lightning tonight for sure. Yeah,
another one for me, number 2 key, is just capitalize on a reeling Buffalo team. That these guys are, they've lost 3 in a row. You look at their losses, they've given up 14 goals in those last 3 games, so they're ripe to put up a lot of goals, to kind of get on top of these guys, and that kind of goes into point number 1 or key number 1. Just get off to a good start, and I think with the way this Buffalo team's playing right now, they're probably confidence is waning a little bit. They were in the thick of the playoff chase for a while now, or for a while back, a couple months ago, and now they're on the outside looking in, and if each day goes by, they're getting a little bit further away from that cutoff line for the playoffs. So I think if you can get up early on these guys, their confidence is going to drag. Then you can pretty much see that way all the way through, because they're not going to have the confidence to get back into it. And then number 3 for me is just be more physical than the Sabres. If you look at this Buffalo team, they're not really a team that likes to play physical. They don't like to hit. They're 28th in the NHL for hitting. The Lightning, they're 10th in the league right now for hitting. They're a team that we've seen, especially of late, that doesn't mind playing a physical game. And you had mentioned some of the guys earlier, like Anthony Cirelli. Yeah. You look at him, he's a pretty scrawny guy. He's not exactly like a guy that you think would go out.
He looks bigger on the ice than he does in the locker room.
He absolutely does. He's not a guy that you think would be out there throwing his weight around. And he doesn't have a lot of weight to throw around, but he gets right in the middle of every scrum. He's kind of an agitator in that Yanni Gourde role, or in that Yanni Gourde mold. And you've got guys like him. You've got Gore, like you mentioned, Chernak. He's been a big addition as far as the physicality and the hitting's concerned. We've seen Dan Girardi lay some big hits on guys. Cedric Paquette has always been a guy that's going to mix it up. So this is a team that, and I think of late, they've made a point of emphasis to be a little bit more physical, to ratchet that part of their game up. And just want to see that continue against Buffalo, because that might get them out of their game a little bit, because that's not a style that they really want to play.
See some of the comments here talking about Andre Palat, and some people thinking that I think Daniel thinks he's the weakest link on the team, and why isn't he being part of that rotation, being sat? I mean, this is a guy that plays on the first line with Steven Stamkos. He's on the first power play unit. He's one of your more defensively responsible players, especially in your own zone. And I think this team, especially up front, they struggle defensively. You notice when Palat's not in the lineup. So I think he's not one of those guys where you look at the stat sheet and go, he's only got this many points.
Yeah.
I think he really is one of those guys that's more important. You got to watch it a little bit more in depth. Watch away from the puck, and you see how important Andre Palat is.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that, Andre Palat was out for like a month of the season. Then when he came back and he was on that line with Steven Stamkos, that's when Stamkos started his goal scoring run. It's really been since December 1st. He's had 25 of his 33 goals have come since December 1st. He leads the NHL for goals since that date. And a lot of that is Andre Palat doing a lot of that dirty work, going into the corners, digging out pucks. That's a Ricky Rodriguez interesting comment there.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a
right?
misfire on autocorrect.
What are you talking about, Ricky?
Yeah, but Palat does a lot of those little things, and you hear John Cooper talk about it a lot, that he this is one of Cooper's favorite sayings, that he's the straw that stirs the drink of whatever line he's on, and that's really what Andre Palat does. He's really the guy that kind of makes the other guys go around him, and he doesn't necessarily put up the offensive numbers that a Steven Stamkos or a Braden Point are going to be able to put up, but he does a lot of the little things that allows those guys to put up the ridiculous numbers that they have. So Andre Palat, as long as he's healthy, he's always going to be a part of this rotation. He's always going to be a key guy for this Lightning team.
Without a doubt. And a key guy for the Sabres tonight, I know Jack Eichel, you got to worry about him, as well as Jeff Skinner and Rasmus Dahlin, who's probably going to be a Calder Trophy finalist this year. But in my opinion, I think the one guy you really got to watch tonight is Sam Reinhart. He's a guy that just seems to be a bugaboo for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's having a career year, and he's just one of those guys that you just have to keep an eye on. It's always, you focus so much on Eichel because he's such a good player. I know he hasn't had the greatest success against the Lightning, but Sam Reinhart's just that guy, and he's been a highly touted guy ever since he came into this league, and this year you're finally kind of seeing the fruits of his labor. So watch out for Sam Reinhart. He's my one to watch on the Sabres tonight.
Yeah, and that top line of theirs, it's kind of a team where you place a lot of your offensive output and scoring power on that top line, and then it doesn't really translate or trickle down to lines 2, 3, and 4. So take that top line out of the equation, and there's not a lot of depth there with Buffalo to really trouble you.
Without a doubt. Bryan Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at BBurnsNHL. You can follow the team at TB Lightning. Go to TampaBayLightning.com for the best news and notes. What's the story on today?
Yeah, just, a team that is playing as well as the Lightning are right now, and there's still 21 games to go in this regular season. Just how do you stay engaged? How do you what's the challenge to keep this run going and to make sure that you don't start to stagnate a little bit going into the playoffs, because they're playing probably their best hockey of the season right now, and you just want to see that continue all the way up to the postseason.
Follow me on Twitter at JRecher. You can follow the station at 95.3 WDAE. Go to 95.3WDAE.com for the best Bolts coverage. Tonight's game up the dial on our sister station, News Radio WFLA, and also tonight's game is on Fox Sports Sun, I believe, and then I think the next 3 are on the NBC Sports Network. So pretty crazy, but national TV for the Bolts. I mean, you want some entertaining hockey.
Yeah, they're putting up those ratings, so NBC wants to get in on that.
Shout out to everybody out there. Make sure you share this on your Facebook. Let's spread the word and be the Thunder. All right, next time, Monday, right?
Yeah, we'll be here Monday night
against the Kings. All right, that's Bryan. I'm Jay. We'll see you next time right here on Bolts Breakdown.